All right. Um, yeah, I think this is the best that we can do for now because, first of all, I am not in a studio, right? I'm not in some soundproof studio where the audio will be pristine and precise and just spectacular. I'm in my room and I live right next to a very big fucking restaurant where it's always noisy and the giant deep freezers are always making noise. And I also happen to live right next to the actual main road. So there are a lot of cars and ambulances and bikes. And when I mean bikes, I mean delivery bikes. So because I live right above a restaurant which which happens to have a lot of delivery bikes. So bear like obviously the name of the podcast is Bear With Me. So you're going to have to bear with me concerning the noise. The audio of this podcast is not going to be as pristine and as clean as your favorite podcast, which in my opinion is supposed to make it different from what you usually listen to, right? So yeah, that's that about that. I live in a fucking three-bedroom apartment, and my housemates would be banging and closing doors as as often as they can. So yeah, that's that about that. But on the bright side, in a way, it does sound like I'm talking to someone on the phone. So, being that I'm someone that's usually quite shy and not as outspoken as literally every other person in this world, I think my housemates are going to think that I am just on the phone with some random person. So, yeah. But the truth about it is that I am properly high and I am also properly drunk. So, because I am properly high and properly drunk, I am also disclaimer. It doesn't. I'm not actually high. Um, wink, wink. I'm, but I am properly drunk because being high on this island is is against the law and it's quite illegal. It's actually super illegal. Like I know guys that are actually in jail right now for possession of you know the the devil's the devil's lettuce. So we can't we can't admit that we are actually in possession of such contraband material. Okay, so what we can say that is legal and appropriate for us to say is that we're high. No, not high. I mean we're drunk, which is the theme. Which frankly is the theme of this podcast. So yeah, I've had like how many beers have I had this night? I mean, I had a very long, tedious day, right? I had a very long, fucked up, tiring day, and I just wanted to do was come home, have like an obnoxious amount of beer, and you know, and I'm not saying I did anything else other than like just chilling with a bunch of pints, but I mean, you get my point, right? You get my drift. So yeah, that's basically what I did. And right now, I am I am in that mood where people I'm in that mood where I feel zen and peace and just I'm just going with the flow. I feel like I am just going downstream, right? I feel like everything is just falling into place and I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm just going to go with the flow and rant about literally anything that comes to mind, right? See, the actual problem I have with beginning this podcast is that I'm not someone that's like any if anybody that knows me knows that I'm not someone that is quite outspoken. I'm usually quite timid and reserved and reticent, right? I like to observe first before I make any comments or make any contribute or make any or put in any inputs, right? So that means that I don't say much. But when I'm high or drunk, that's when the guns come out and I say what exactly I have in mind. So that's why I decided that I'm going to start a podcast. And um, though it's not going to be as glamorous or as professional or as pristine as all the other 4 million other podcasts. Do you know that there are 4 million podcasts right now? 4 million people are 4 million people have podcasts right now as you speak. So basically, I'm the 4 million and first person beginning a podcast. So I'm quite literally, in every sense of the word, late. But I feel like I have something unique that I've brought to the already overfilled and over well, let's just go with overfilled table. Yeah. So anyways, um welcome to I don't believe that this is how how you plan something, right? Like you've planned it and you've crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's and you feel like yeah, this is ready and like it's ready to go and you've set everything and you've put everything in motion and you're like this is not going to fail in any way, shape, or form, right? But then the day comes for you to implement your plan, and then you feel nervous, and you just um you just shut everything down, or like out of fear and out of like nervousness, you refuse to like actually show up, right? So that's how I've always felt about actually beginning this podcast of mine, right? I've always felt like because there are so many people already doing it, I don't think that I have what it takes to actually start it, right? I have this very great, very good idea about beginning a podcast because I feel like I have a lot that I want to say and a lot of people, interesting people, if I might add, that I want to talk to and have very interesting conversations with. But just because of this feeling, of this nature that I have, being someone that isn't outspoken or good at expressing himself, I decided that I'm just going to put it away until I have some kind of what's it called? Some kind of steroid that helps me um, begin it basically. So alcohol is my steroid, right? Alcohol, weed, whatever you call it. Um, so yeah, that's my steroid, and that's what I use to express myself as best as I can. Whenever you know how people get so shit faced, right? When they want to when they're drunk. In my case, I get more open, and I am more like how do I put it? I am more like myself. I'm more in control of myself, and I am more articulate when I am like fucked up. Like sometimes, if I really want to say something that I have in mind, I feel like I need to get as drunk as I can so that I can be able to like say it without feeling guilty or whatever. So that is basically why I decided to like start a podcast. Why I decided to start this podcast. You know, my podcast is Beer with Me, which basically is a pun on the word beer. So like beer with me, either you bear with me or you have a beer with me. So that's basically what it is. What I was trying to say earlier is that if I can like just follow my train of thoughts here, is that yeah, I started this podcast because obviously I have a lot to say, but I can't say them when I am sober. I have to say them when I am utterly and fucked up drunk. So so that whatever consequence I whatever consequence that follows, I don't feel any guilt because I'll just blame it on drunk me, right? I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that you're going to hear a lot of this for like forever. A lot of me coughing, a lot of me stuttering, a lot of me doing this. So I'm sorry uh that this is going to be something normal. So just accept it and let's go with the flow. Okay. All right. Cool. So welcome to my very first podcast. My name is General Prime, and this is Bear with Me, which is a pun on beer, right? I don't know what that means at the moment, but maybe you can try to figure it out by yourself. Okay? All right. So, my very first topic today is let me see. Earlier today I was thinking about this, right? I don't know how many people have read the book 1984. That's one of my favorite books by George Orwell. And if not my favorite book, right? It's one of my top 5 most favorite books, right? Now here's my issue with the book. In 1984, right? In 1984, right? You know how in 1984 2 plus 2 is 5, right? O'Brien tells Winston that 2 plus 2 is 5, and 2 plus 2 is 5 because Big Brother and the party says that 2 plus 2 is 5, and they want everyone to believe that 2 plus 2 is 5, and that is the way they are able to maintain control. But when it comes to actual science of building rockets and bombs, 2 plus 2 has to be 4, because if 2 plus 2 isn't 4, then rockets and bombs cannot be properly and articulately and precisely built. 2 plus 2 has to be 4 when it comes to building rockets and bombs. But aside that, 2 plus 2 can be 5 because Big Brother and the inner party, actually says that 2 plus 2 is 5. So, my question now is, let's say yes, we agree with all of that, right? Let's say that we are in support and we are in love with Big Brother, and we agree that we wholeheartedly and objectively agree that 2 plus 2 is 5, because Big Brother has made us believe, or has convinced us to believe, that 2 plus 2 is 5, right? Cool, nice, great. Now let's say that someone like O'Brien, or Mr. Sharrington. By the way, Mr. Sharrington is one of the worst characters in the book. Not like he was a bad character per se, like not like he was improperly written or like he was a bad character. I just feel like, to me personally, I just feel like he's a bad person. He's just evil. He's just fucked up. In the sense that this is someone that was helping Winston and Julia um just find themselves and just be okay and be happy and be in love. And then it turns out that this person was a sham all along and he was a fucking inner party member and a fucking thought police. Was he? I don't even know if he was a thought police, but he's just the worst. I just of all the characters in the book, I feel like Mr. Sharrington to me personally is the worst. I just hate him. I just hate him because I just hate him because he was supposed to be the person to teach Winston how the old world worked, right? He was supposed to be the one to teach Winston the songs, the cathedrals, what capitalism was all about, and everything else that came with it. And then at the end, it turned out that he was a fucking thought police, which is just which just fucking pissed me the fuck off to the point that I just that well, I fucking hate that guy, man. I fucking hate Mr. Sharrington. I hate him. But yeah, anyway, let's just say that O'Brien is all alone by himself, right? Or say Mr. Sharrington is all alone by himself, right? Let's just assume that is 2 plus 2 still going to be 5 or 4? Like, I feel like it's a waste of time and energy for for example, Winston's job is to like try to um redo or rewrite past history, right? Say, let's say Oceania is at war with East Asia today. So Winston's job is to announce to the world that Oceania is at war with East Asia, right? But then something happens tomorrow, and then Oceania is no longer at war with East Asia, but is now at war with Eurasia, right? So now they have to like start erase not even tomorrow, let's say next week or next month, right? Oceania is now at war with Eurasia, no longer East Asia. So now they have to start rewriting and erasing every data or every evidence that previously showed that Oceania was at war with East Asia and not Eurasia. Like they have to like redo the whole thing, which to me is a tedious process, right? Which is a very like it's so redundant and so doesn't make any sense actually. Like why not just keep things the way I feel like it's more of a waste of time, right? To erase what was and start from scratch to try your best to try to convince us that what was wasn't what is actually, and what actually currently is right now is what has always been. I don't know if I'm making any sense, right? So you're trying to tell me that last week Eurasia was at war with East Asia, right? And now you're telling me that no, Eurasia wasn't at war with East Asia, but Eurasia has always been at war with was the other one? With I forgot the other one, right? So doesn't make any sense. Doesn't actually make any sense. And I don't know how dumb, even though I know that there are some spectacularly, unimaginably dumb people out there that will believe literally anything you tell them. But I just don't think that a normal human being can like can just readily believe and accept anything that you tell them and just swallow it up, hook line and sinker, right? Doesn't actually make any sense to me. So what I'm trying to say is that, say someone like O'Brien, right, is in a room by himself, does he actually objectively and truthfully believe that 2 plus 2 is 5? Like when he's alone and he has turned off, like he don't like when Winston and Julia went to visit him in his room, in his residence, right? And he was able to turn off like the big screen of Big Brother watching everything that goes on, right? He was able to turn it off for a moment. And he has that ability, like the inner party members have the ability to turn off the big screen for a moment, right? Let's say, yeah, it gets to a point where he being able to do that, he does that, right? Does he still believe that 2 plus 2 is 5, or 2 plus 2 is actually 4? Because because I don't think that someone as intelligent and cunning as O'Brien, for example, will will continue to hold the belief when there is no um when there is no superior power or superior entity um overlooking his what's it called what do I call it now overlooking his uh this is where I am at a loss for words, right? Overlooking his every move, right? When there is no superior entity or superpower overlooking his every move, I don't think that he's going to continue to hold that belief, because if Winston wasn't like a fucking retard, right? I feel like there is an angle to the story where everything in the book was all in Winston's head, and he was like dreaming up everything that happened, and actual Big Brother doesn't actually exist. That's just one of my theories, right? But let's just say that the whole story is right. Like, and Winston wasn't like dreaming up everything. Okay. I'm so fucking sorry about the coughing. Okay, just bear with me. I just say that the whole story is right and Winston isn't a madman. Okay. Are you trying to tell me that someone as intelligent and as articulate as O'Brien uh believes that 2 plus 2 is actually 5, when nobody is there to like coerce him to believe that? Doesn't actually make sense to me. I don't know. I haven't thought this far about this. I haven't gone this long with this train of thought. But I'm just trying to say that I don't think that someone like O'Brien can believe that 2 plus 2 is 5. It doesn't like there is no point to believe that 2 plus 2 is 5, unless you're so in love with Big Brother and you're so delusional that you don't even know that you're being delusional, that you cannot even conceive of a reality without Big Brother where 2 plus 2 can be 4. And so your entire conception of reality is that 2 plus 2 has to be 5 no matter what. Like, unless you've gone that far in your pursuit of love for Big Brother, unless you've gone that far. Like, unless I feel like, unless you can get to the point where at the end of the book where um Winston is in a chestnut tree cafe and he's proclaimed his love for Big Brother, right? And unless you've gotten to that point, right? But I don't think that someone like what's his fucking name? Someone like O'Brien is at that point, because his job, right? His job is actually in some way meaningful to the inner party. But at the end of the book, where Winston is seated at the Chestnut Cafe, right? Chestnut Tree Cafe, and even though like he even though he gets a lot of money at his new job, we don't actually know what the job is, right? Even though he gets a lot of money from it, um, we don't actually know what it is, and we learn that the job is a kind of a redundant job, like in reality, what most supervising jobs are, right? I don't think that um I don't think that O'Brien I don't think that that kind of job um can or is what O'Brien does, right? So yeah, that's just what I'm trying to say. I don't think that in reality members of the inner party believe that 2 plus 2 is actually 5. I think they just do it because they feel like they have to, because obviously Big Brother is always watching. And because Big Brother is always watching, everybody has to be in line. So yeah, that's that about that. Um that's my rant on my first episode of Bear With Me concerning one of my favorite books, 1984. And I think we're going to continue this after this break. Please bear with me. I'm going to take a piece right now, and I'll be right back. Here we go. Welcome back, guys. We're still on my very first episode of Bear With Me. I am your host, General Prime, and yeah, that's that about that. So yeah, I don't like the whole idea of like taking a break and then coming back. I just feel like it obstructs the whole flow of the ranting or conversation or self conversation that the listener is engaged with, you know. But I actually had to take this break because I actually had to like take a piece, right? I mean, I mean, I've had like 5 beers this night, and it doesn't really hold that that well. I mean, you have to take a piece at some point in time, right? So, um, but the truth of the matter is that I am not actually as drunk as I intend to be. That can help me hold this podcast for as long as I actually wanted to, for as long as I actually wanted to go for, right? I'm not I'm not as drunk as I want to be. Like I've had, like I said before, I've had like 5 cans of beer, and let's say all of them are like 50 cl, right? So that means that I've had like 2.5 liters of beer this night alone, and it's a fucking Thursday night, right? So fuck. So I've had 2.5 liters worth of beer. I am nowhere near as strong as I want to be. It's not like I'm bragging or like I'm some macho man. You know how people like to brag about stuff like this, and people like to overestimate how much they can actually go, like how far they can actually go, right? People like to claim that they can bite more than they can chew. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, right? But no, I'm not that pretentious. I'm not that kind of person. I'm just saying I'm just saying that I I'm just saying that I am not as drunk as I want to be. Like I feel like I feel like in order for me to be a bit more loose and to be a bit more open and and to be a bit more outspoken, I feel like I can go for more beers, but I I I can't. I can't at the moment for reasons best known to me. Not not because they're things that I want to keep to myself, but because I think I am currently too engaged and also too lazy to go all the way downstairs and all the way to some obscure little shack to get myself uh more beer. So no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to save that for another episode. So note to self, right? Note to self. The very next episode of this podcast should come with at least, so I had five earlier, right? So probably another five. So the very next episode of this podcast should come with at least 10 cans of beer. I mean, that makes an absolute logical amount of sense, right? You have to drink 10 cans of beer, and if you're going to keep this up for as long as possible, that means that every single time when you want to record an episode of your absolutely non fucking audience capturing podcast, you're going to have to get shit faced with at least 10 cans of beer, which is going to be detrimental to your health. Absolutely detrimental to your health. You're going to die. You're going to die before you get to the age of fucking 35 if you're going to be having 10 cans of beer every single fucking Thursday night. It doesn't make any sense. Come to think of it, I think the best time to record for this podcast i- is Thursdays, right? Because since this is going to be like a podcast where it's just going to be, since this is going to be a not really a podcast. I mean, at least for now, right? Where it's just me ranting and saying stuff that I find interesting and intriguing and questionable, right? I think my listeners, not viewers, because this is not yet going to be an audio. My listeners are mostly going to be people who want to be as drunk as I am, or aspire to be as drunk as I am, or are on their way to getting to, or are on their way to going to get as drunk as I currently am. So the best time for this podcast to be released should be Friday. The best time for this podcast to be recorded should be on Thursdays, and then the best time for the podcast to be released should be on Friday evenings when people are on their way to bars and karaoke's and parties and nightclubs and everywhere else where people go to get shit faced. So if you're if you're on your way to wherever it is you're you you go to get drunk, then I feel like this is the best time for you to listen to me. Don't drink responsibly at all. I mean, we have 7 billion people. Do we really need 7 billion people? Like, do we actually need? See, listen, let me let me say something, right? Let me say something controversial that many people will not have the balls to say, right? I feel like this is going to be a banger for a first episode. Listen, you don't have to drink responsibly. I mean, do you really have to drink responsibly? Like, just think of it for a second, right? Like, just give it a thought. Give it a thought and a second thought. You actually don't have to drink responsibly. I mean, if you want to, you can, but you don't actually have to because humans don't like to be told what to do. We don't like it in any way, shape, or form, right? So Because we don't like to be told what to do, we don't have to follow instructions, right? So go to the bars, to the parties, to the nightclubs, drive there and drink as much as you want, and then drive home. Just wing it. Just fucking wing it. Whatever happens should happen. If you take a life, well, people die every day. But if you take your own life, kudos, you died like a fucking man. Also, I am joking. Don't don't take my listen. There are going to be a lot of advices. Is there such a word as advices? Well, there are going to be a lot of what's another word? What's a synonym for advice? There are going to be a lot of things I'll say on on things I'll say on this podcast, and I don't expect anybody that is reasonable or anybody that has a few screws left in their brains to take any word I say on this podcast. I'm just ranting. I'm fucking drunk. I am fucking drunk. I mean, you have to be a special kind of stupid to listen to the word of someone who has had five fucking cans of beer on a fucking Thursday night, who lives in an apartment that is directly above a fucking kebab restaurant. You have to be a special, spectacular kind of stupid to listen to that kind of person. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I'm sh- I am I hope to God, to whatever God that exists, Allah, Yahweh, Zenu, Krishna. I hope that you understand what I'm trying to what I'm trying to say. Okay. All right. So, what is the reason for me starting a podcast? Let's dive. Let's just take a deep dive into for me the reason for me starting the podcast. Listen, this is actually not the first time I am starting. This is actually not my first attempt at uh at this endeavor, right? I actually did this last year. Like uh someone like a friend of mine, a previous friend of mine, we're not actually we're not actually close anymore, right? For reasons best known to both of us. Um, this person hit me up, right, and said, "Hey, do you want to start? Do you want to? You've said something about starting a podcast before, right?" And I was like, yeah, I have." And then this person was like, "Well, do you want to right now?" And I was like, "Sure, yes, I do." And then the person was like, "Do you have a name for this said podcast that you want to start?" I was like, "Of course, I do. Beer with me, but it's a pun, like beer with me, like you're having a beer or two with me." And the person was like, "Brilliant. I have two other people that are interested in um in well I have two other people that are interested." And I was like, sure, sure, okay, right, yeah, I mean, we can make it work. We're four, right? So um I guess we can make it work. So the these two other people came. I mean, we all got together and then we began the podcast. But but here is the bomber. It's not a catch, it's a bomber. So see, listen, the opposite of a catch. You know when someone says here is a catch, there's actually an opposite of that. And the opposite is here is the bomber. So in this case, there was not a catch, there was a bomber. A catch is positive, a bomber is negative. So here is the bomber. We actually never drank. I mean, the whole idea of my podcast was we get shit faced, we get fucked up, we get high as fuck, and we rant and we talk and we like just chill and we lose and we just say whatever comes to our mind objectively, logically as best as we can. And at the end of the day, someone goes home with something, right? But we never did that. We're incoherent. We were disorganized. There was no order, and everything was just it was just bad, right? It was a first attempt, and first attempts are usually bad, are usually poor. So we only had like 3 episodes, and we posted them on YouTube, and we got like the 3 episodes in total got like 2 views. W- I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, 2 views. One was from me, and one was from I don't I don't fucking know, man. I don't know, but we got like 2 views in 2 views in total. So and then that died, and one of them is in jail right now. Uh yeah, and so and then I was like, this isn't going to work. For this stuff to work, right? It has to be because for this stuff to work, right? It has to be with people that I am actually I have to be in absolutely listen. I am someone who I am someone who likes to be in control, right? Like I like to be in control because I feel like if I am not in control of any situation I find myself in, it's going to go to shite. It's going to go to shit, and nothing is going to come out of it. So I like to be in control because anytime I am in control and I am in charge of whatever situation I find myself in, I make sure that everything goes according to plan. I cross my T's and I dot my I's, right? I make sure that everything works out perfectly. Some people that have met me on several occasions might say that I have OCD, but I don't like to think of myself as someone that has OCD. People with actual OCD uh know that OCD is a problem, like it's an actual problem. But people like to use that term loosely, right? People like to there are a lot of there are a lot of pre- there are fuck if I can get my word right. There are a lot of pretentious people today, and they like to claim that they have I mean, do you have has anybody ever realized that there are some deficits in human development that people have come to adore and glamorize and accept as cool and hip and um worth having. Things like OCD and like right now on TikTok, right? Who like right now on TikTok, right? People people appreciate or people welcome, like if you have OCD, right, or say um MPD, like multiple personality disorder, or s- whatever fucking mental issue that people find okay to have these days. Like it's okay to have those diseases, right? But it's not okay to be blind or to be ugly, um, socially acceptably ugly. I'm making air quotes here. I wish I had the video. I wish I had videos I wish I had a camera to be able. I don't like filming myself. So no, I don't actually wish I had a camera. But right now, if there if there was an alternate universe where I liked filming myself, then you would see that I am making air quotes here. Socially acceptable uh fucking disorders, socially acceptable disorders. Like these are the things that people find. These are the diseases and mental disorders that people want to have, like OCD, like ADHD, like fucking multiple personality disorder, like fucking I don't, bruh. I'm fucking drunk, man. I don't have to like bounce on so many syllables to make a word. But I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Okay. All right. So yeah, I don't have OCD at all. At all. I don't. But some people that know me might think that I do because I am always precise with whatever it is whatever it is I find myself doing, and I like being in control because I feel like if I am not in control, then everything goes haywire. Okay, right? So yeah. So anyway, I decided that if I was going to do this podcast, then I had to like do it by myself until I get to a point where I feel comfortable enough to bring in one more person, and then one more other person, and then one more other person, right? Like I until I get comfort until I am comfortable enough to get to a point where I am able to have conversations with people I find interesting. Just like, let's just say the JRE, like the Joe Rogan experience, right? Let's just say I am, for a lack of a better term, copying his own format, right? I mean, he's a fucking 55 now. Is it 55 or 54? Like, he's a fucking 55-year-old man, right? 55-year-old white man that uh that has that does 3 hour conversations with people he finds interesting. What is wrong with a 31-year-old black man who does the same, having conversations with people he also finds interesting, people from his own uh circle of life, right? Because if you've noticed the format of Joe Rogan's podcast, there are basically there are not more than 5 things he talks about: comedy, MMA, fucking coronavirus, aliens, haunting, and that, basically that's it. Just 5 things: MMA, aliens, haunting, coronavirus, and I don't know what the last thing I just, and fucking comedy. Yeah, that's it. Five things that those are the 5 themes of his fucking podcast, and he's successful as fuck. And those 5 things spill over into a myriad of other things, right? A myriad of other things, and it works perfectly fine. And since that's my favorite podcast, right? And I am just like him, right? Like, as much as he's interested in talking, he's genuinely, I feel like one of the reasons that makes him successful is that he's genuinely, truthfully interested in talking to people. And actually that's that's what, oddly enough, I find myself being interested in. Like, I haven't yet gotten to the point where, I mean, I am actually interested in talking to people, right? I mean, if you have some kind of topic or some kind of information that you feel is interesting enough to talk to me um about, sure, you're welcome to do that. But I haven't gotten to that. But this is my first podcast, guys. This is my first podcast. I hope to God that I'm able to do the second podcast next week, Thursday. I mean, it just worked out perfectly. This is me thinking out loud right now. I'm not talking to you guys, I'm actually talking to myself right now. It just worked out perfectly that I happened to decide to get drunk as fuck on a fucking Thursday night, so that this podcast can be uploaded on Friday, and hopefully people get to listen to it on Friday and get as they are on their way to get fucked up and drunk as fuck, right? Drinking irresponsibly and I mean as best as they can, right? Just worked out, just happened to work out. I didn't plan for this. I didn't plan for this to happen, and it just happened that way. So I'm just going to continue with this format. It's going to be on Thursday nights, and then it gets uploaded on Fridays, right? Cool. That makes for now I'm drunk, so it makes the perfect amount of sense to me. So yeah, we're just going to keep doing that. We're just going to keep doing that because it makes sense. Yeah. So uh okay. What else? What else? What I can't for the love of me remember what I was talking about like 5 minutes ago. And I don't want to be I don't want to be I don't want this pod. I don't know if I don't know if people if my voice is what being listened to. Like I don't know if I have this in I don't know if my voice is enchanting or interesting enough to retain listeners, right? I hope to God that it does, right? I hope to God that my voice is interesting and entertaining enough and funny enough to keep people listening to me over and over again. I mean, this is the roughest. This is as rough as it can go, right? This is as rough as it can get. Like this is the very first episode. Like who tell me where something that is the first, right, is is the best that it can ever be. I mean, first versions of everything usually sucks, right? First versions of cars, first versions of apps, first versions of fucking what else? Phones, first versions of fucking gears and stuff uh usually suck, right? And then, I mean, that's what evolution is all about, right? Evolution is all about improvement. Evolution is all about change. Okay, so you don't expect the first version to be the best. It's not. It's just not. It's just not possible, right? But then I mean, one time I decided that I was going to listen to Joe Rogan's Joe Rogan's first episode in this podcast, and then I went on Spotify, and then I sorted it from earliest to latest, and then the first episode popped up, and then I listened to it, and it was hideous. It was fucked up. It was bad. I mean, right now, what I am doing right now is miles better than whatever it better than whatever it is he was doing back then. But today, he's on his 1,100 and something episode, and it's crazy. It's crazy how far he has come. And I would like to hit a hundred. I would like to hit the hundredth, like the hundredth milestone. Like I would like to get there someday, right? If I keep doing this every fucking Thursday, I don't know how long it's going to take me to get to like the hundredth episode, right? But eventually, I'm going to get there, and I and yeah, how it is right now is absolutely in no way, shape, or form how it's going to be when I am on my 100th episode. Even the 10th episode is going to be drastically different. The 10th episode of this podcast is going to be drastically different from the first episode. So I just want anybody who is listening right now to bear with me. No pun intended. To bear with me because this is something that I've always wanted to do, right? I mean, I've always wanted to say stuff. Like I've always wanted to air my views, right? And I first tried with scripted content on YouTube. Like I tried writing scripts and making video essays, but although my essays were good and the editing was as best as I could do at the time, I just felt like it was tedious for me because I was the one doing the editing, I was the one doing the writing, I was the one doing the I was the one doing every single fucking thing, everything, and so um like adding that to my day job and everything, it was just so fucking tedious for me, and then I couldn't like keep up, so I had to like stop. But I feel like having a podcast, like getting drunk as fuck or high as fuck, and just like um saying whatever comes to mind and just being free and not caring about whatever or however I say stuff, or like being articulate or being or like using the right vocabulary or using the right words in every sentence and just saying things naturally. I feel like it's going to go a long way for me. So yeah, that's that about that. Okay, so I'm just saying, I just want everyone to like bear with me because yeah, I just want everyone to like just bear with me because this actually feels like this is actually what I've been wanting to do for a very long time now, and I'm so privileged and I'm so happy that actually I'm able to do it, even though the resources that I've been able to gather are not as professional or as good as your favorite podcasts, but everyone has to start from somewhere. Everyone has to start from somewhere, right? And then from there, we all progress and we all um, upgrade and evolve. And things get better, right? That's basically that's basically life. That's basically life. So yeah. So my 10th episode and my 100th episode are going to be, and my first episode actually, are going to be different. Different in production value, different in the things I say, different in how I say them, and different also and also in how drunk I am. So, I mean, that's something, right? That's something. So, yeah. So you just have to bear with me and just stick with me, and I promise, all fingers and toes are crossed right now. I am actually one of the few people on earth who can that can actually cross, like if you can see me right now, if there was a video right now, right, you will see that I am actually crossing my fingers and my toes. Like I am actually one of the few people on I think on earth that are actually able to that are weird enough to be that those are that's one of my like weird abilities, right? I don't know anybody that can do that. Like I know people that can bend their fingers backwards. I know people that can like twist their arms, and I know people that can like fucking do weird ass things. But my own weird stuff is that I can like fucking cross my fingers and my toes. So um yeah, I promise you, all my fingers and my toes are crossed, that, yeah, this is going to be one of a kind, one of 4 million. There are 4 million fucking podcasts, man. 4 fucking million fucking podcasts. That's weird. 4 million people out of 7 billion. That's not much actually if you think about it. That's not much. But yeah, even though I'm late to the game, even though I'm late to the party, bruv, uh, it's still worth doing. It's still worth coming to. It's still worth being a part of, right? And this is something that feels. This is something I find. This is something I think is special. Like having a podcast is better than. I feel like this is the best um form of media that this is the most engaging form of media right now. Podcasting is the most engaging form of media because you get to be your audience get to be a lot more intimate with you, and then they listen to you in your rarest, no, in your most honest and intimate form, right? I don't know what else to, I don't know what other word that I can that can best be used to describe what I'm trying to say. But yeah, your audience, your listeners get to know, like actually know you. And I think in that's special actually. So yeah. So stick with me and you never go hungry again, okay? Right. Yeah, that's I feel like I've been talking for about an hour now. So I think I prefer long form podcasts. I don't like podcasts that are 15 minutes long or like an hour long. But for a start, right? For a start, let's just keep it at an hour long. I like long form podcasts. I like podcasts that go for like more than an hour, right? I like that. But yeah, let's just keep it at an hour for now because this is the first, and then as time goes on, um, uh, things get better. Yeah, things will get better. Obviously, consistency is key. Consistency is always key, right? Right. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for this journey, for following me on this journey that I am about to embark on. It's scary, it's unpredictable, it's weird, it's unlike me, but it's fun. It's something I've always wanted to do, and I'm glad that I have been able to find the balls and courage to do them thanks to alcohol. And I am absolutely, immeasurably thankful for weed. And that's something I'm going to talk about in my next episode. So, yeah, that's that about that, guys. Follow me on Twitter at General Prime One, and I'm not really a social media person, right? So I don't post a lot. So, but if you feel like you're obligated to follow me and you want to know more about me, I don't post much. I think the last time I posted on Instagram was like fucking, what year are we in right now? We're in 2022, right? So like 2 years ago, I think was the last time I posted on fucking Instagram. Yeah, so if you feel obligated to follow a ghost account, so you can follow me on IG, on Instagram at General Prime One, and also on Twitter with the same name at General Prime One. So yeah, thank you for listening to my first podcast. Bear with me, your host General Prime, and let's do this again next Thursday. Let's do this again next Thursday. All right. Bye. Goodbye. Good night. Bye everybody. All right. Uh, bye everybody.